name is Nicole. I'm a producer for the Remembering Them podcast. The podcast is a platform for people to share stories and memories of their loved ones who have passed away. The podcast was created in memory of Dad, Bob Cecil. May he rest in peace. Your host, Mark, Ryan, and Luke acknowledge the rich history and importance of storytelling within the indigenous culture.
My name is Jorgi Skeen, and I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we meet here today. Today we're meeting in Meanjin, and those traditional owners are the Yagara and Turrbal people. And I'd also like to pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and acknowledge my people, the Gubbi Gubbi people, and extend that acknowledgement to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people listening in today.
Hello, Luke. Welcome back to the podcast.
Morning, Mark. Thanks for having me, mate.
No Ryan this morning. Do you know where he's at?
I actually don't. I was hoping you'd have the answers. Maybe some of our listeners should comment in and see if they've seen him around because he does
It's
do a fair bit of traveling.
yeah, I believe it's a noble cause today, actually, for Ryan. We won't dig at him too hard today. At date of recording, it's the 17th of October, and it's actually International Day for the eradication of poverty. So just a day where you can go out and help people that aren't doing so well. And we've got quite a few in Brisbane, people that are homeless and possibly hungry. So I believe Ryan's out there feeding the homeless. So hats off, Ryan. You have a leave pass for today. Well done. But shout out to anyone out there that's doing the hard work and helping people that are struggling. Well done, Ryan.
To
Mate,
put
on
you
to
doing
the
really doing something.
he is actually really doing something nicely. Not to the people actually doing something. Maybe Ryan will hear this and it'll prompt him to actually go out there and do it.
Subscribe.
So happy International Eradication of Poverty Day. Now on to clues to guess where our guest is from today. 3 clues for you, as always. Play along at home, see if you can beat Luke and Ryan when he hears this back. Clue number 1. This place is home to one of the largest uranium producers in the world. It contains over 15% of the world's uranium production. You would have heard of this place, I'm sure of it.
Man, what are they? Is uranium just like nuclear? I don't even know what they use uranium for. I don't even know. Man, these clues are so stupid.
15% is quite a lot. Generating electricity, medical treatments and diagnosis. I think it is, yeah. Reactors, also, nuclear weapons, research, that kind of thing. So yeah,
Sounds nuclear.
pretty heavy stuff.
Okay. The Midwest somewhere, maybe.
Think we're in America,
Colorado.
not Colorado. Clue number 2. Wonder if anyone got that. Probably not, unless you're working in that particular industry. Clue number 2. This place has one of the most important fossil sites in the world. It has yielded world-renowned dinosaur fossils, including those of the T-Rex and Triceratops, making it a hotspot for paleontologists globally.
Hmm. Um, Very interesting. I know dinosaurs are all over the world, so it doesn't help.
No, it doesn't.
Uranium is probably all over the world, so it doesn't help. Giving Australia vibes, but Australia's not like I know we have some dinosaurs out west, but I don't think that's like a mecca. That's what you said.
Yeah, and I
Um,
don't think we have a large uranium production site. I could be wrong, but
who knows?
I
Who
don't.
knows?
Yeah.
We are wastelandish. Are we in like what are we in like Nevada? In like Vegas?
No, not in Nevada. Third and final clue for you. This might give you a little bit more. The world's largest snowmobile rally happens here. It attracts enthusiasts from around the globe to ride in the snowy backcountry. So
This
definitely not Australia.
that's a worse clue. It's just it's gone from dinosaurs digging in the desert and mining to now snow.
I think when you
Uh,
hear where we are, you'll connect those. Maybe not so much the dinosaurs, but possibly the uranium and the snow fields, the snow backcountry.
um, Did you say are we looking for? I don't even know. Are we looking
We're
for a
looking for a
state?
place. We're looking for a,
For a
yeah,
place?
yeah.
Where North America?
No, I'll put you out of your
What?
misery.
Not
We're
even North
actually,
America.
no, not in North America. We're actually
All
in
right.
Saskatchewan, in Canada.
That is North America.
So primarily from the Athabasca Basin was clue number one, the uranium production area. The Frenchman Formation is the important fossil site, and the town of Humboldt holds the world's largest snowmobile rally. Saskatchewan, it's a tough one to say, is a prairie province in central Canada known for its wide open skies, vibrant sunsets, and strong agricultural heritage. Its diverse communities reflect a rich mix of Indigenous cultures, European settler history, and modern rural life. Today's guest is a teacher, content creator, and a proud boy mum to her son, Waylon. As a bereaved medical mum, she channels her experience into supporting other families while balancing substitute teaching and life on the family's tree farm, run by her husband, Kyle. A lover of camping, travel, and comedy shows, she grew up as a tomboy playing hockey and riding dirt bikes and brings the same vibrance, resilience, and heart to everything she does today. From Saskatchewan in Canada, we have Kyla Thomson. Welcome to the Remembering Them podcast officially, Carla. Thank you very much for joining us all the way over from Canada. I've struggled saying this in the intro, Saskatchewan.
That was great. Yeah.
Okay.
Some people, some people, yeah, you said it probably the shortest way I've ever heard it said, but very
Okay.
good. Yeah. I usually say Saskatchewan,
Okay.
Saskatchewan.
but
Yeah.
that could be the Canadian me saying it longer and slower.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we just rush things in Australia and shorten things too. So we might refer to
Yeah.
SAS. That's a lot easier for me to say.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know
Yeah.
if you know this, Mark. I actually caught the Via Rail across Canada when I used to live in Toronto. So I don't actually even remember Saskatchewan, to be honest. I'm sorry, Kyla. It was just it's the prairies, right? There's not much out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty bland,
Yeah.
Love it.
especially in the South.
Yeah.
Well, thank
Yeah.
you for jumping on and joining us, Kyla, and working out the time difference. Appreciate we've got one
Yeah.
of my best friends is over in Canada, so it's hard working out times to chat sometimes. But thank you for jumping on, and let's just jump straight into it. If you'd like to tell us who we're talking about today, who we'll be remembering and sharing stories of.
Yeah. I'm so happy. And thank you guys again for having me on here to talk about my late daughter Bella, who passed away last year, July 14th, 2024. And she was my firstborn, and I have a son, Waylon, who is in grade two, and my husband Lyle, and we live on an acreage in Saskatchewan, Canada, and we grow trees. We have a tree farm, and I'm a teacher, and my husband also works for the government, the Saskatchewan government. And my daughter Bella was born in 2013, and she passed away when she was 9. And basically, we have a pretty world-renowned story. If I could describe her story in one sentence, it would be that she had taught our world how to be brave. And I hope to carry on her legacy by helping others stay brave. And apart from that, we had a really unique, long medical journey for her. Yeah.
And what happened to and what was your daughter's name? If you please share that, and also what happened, I guess from the very start and the start of that
Yeah.
journey. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. My daughter, my daughter is Bella, Isabella Thompson, and most know her as Bella Brave. And so when she was born with very rare conditions, three that even separately on their own are very, very rare. And then she had a combination of the three, which we later came to understand that none of her uh, specialists and physicians had ever seen this combination of these rare conditions in their careers. And our Canadian specialists and pediatric specialists have reached out to other doctors in the UK as well as California and the States. And so my daughter Bella was born with, she's really a medical miracle. She was born with primarily like her her main condition was dwarfism, and she had what they had called cartilage hair hypoplasia. And you could look at this almost this diagnosis kind of like an umbrella, where like an umbrella term of conditions, because you can have all these other conditions when you have this type of dwarfism. And she had the rarest form of the rare ones with it. So she had also SCID, which is severe combined immune deficiency. But in layman's terms, she had no immune system. She was born with no immune system, no ability to fight viruses or bacteria. And we didn't know. And then she was also born with a very fatal, in her case, bowel disease called Hirschsprung's, which is basically dead colon. But hers turned out to be a very, very rare form of long segment Hirschsprung's affecting her entire bowel. And a lot of her specialists had never seen this Hirschsprung's affect the small bowel, and hers did. And it led to bowel failure, which led to her bowel transplant. And so those are the three main conditions she was actually born with. And we didn't understand all three fully, that she even had them, besides the dwarfism, until she was almost 2. So yeah. Then there's some very, very unique stories with each one. And basically, her being born with those rare conditions um, is what caused us to be in hospital for the first 2 years of her life consecutively. Surgeries and not knowing she had no immune system to fight, and then discovering the severity of her bowel disease and the severity of her immune disorder. Um, After coming home after those first 2 years consecutively, uh, later turned into years of long-term stays. So we would go back into hospital for long-term stays until eventually when she was 6 years old, we finally got to a point where and you can ask me tons of questions about this too. And I don't know if I coined the term medical mom, but I called myself a medical mom for a while, because I had learned to give her every type of medical care she needed at home, versus, just to get her out of hospital. And so I learned to give her IVs, draw her blood off of her central lines. She had an ostomy bag on her tummy. At one point, she had 2. Um, there's so many branches we can go off on. I don't want to get on too many bunny trails if you have questions about some of them, but feel free to jump back or jump into any section of time. But she had a bone marrow transplant was the treatment for her SCID diagnosis. She had that at 1. And then when she went into bowel failure by age 6 is when she was listed for a bowel transplant. And she received that bowel transplant when, like, 3 years later. So she had to wait 3 years. That was a very difficult wait. And we almost lost her a few times. In her entire 9 years of life, she had suffered severe sepsis attacks 5 times. And she eventually got her life-saving bowel transplant in 2023. And it gave her life pain-free. She finally received the bowels she'd been hoping and dreaming for, to give her a life away from hospital and without pain. And there's so many miracles in her story, from how we discovered she had SCID to her receiving her and surviving long enough to receive her bowel transplant. And I hate that it's all, tainted with something unrelated when it came to her passing.
So many questions. As you said, there's so many different
Yeah.
avenues we can talk about. Was there a time where you were given advice that um, a terminal diagnosis, or was it any sort of hope given around longevity, to live a long life, or was it? It just sounds like there was this constant fight. It was um, research, trying to
Yeah.
find out what was going on, and then finding out what it was, and then fighting it, and then having the procedure, then the organ donation, and then she's fighting something else. It just sounds like her entire little life was research and then fighting.
Yeah. And everything, like she had also developed SVC syndrome, and that was a mix of having dwarfism. So her tiny little body didn't have a lot of landscape for vessels for IVs, yet she's born with these conditions that demand her IV access to live. So for example, like when she also, before I go on to that note about her SVC syndrome, um, her the treatments she was receiving for her bowels, like Hirschsprung's, was really, really rough on her little system. There was months, sometimes months, weeks, she couldn't eat. Her bowels wouldn't function. They just stopped functioning, and she had to survive on TPN and IVs. And this was in between surgeries. She had 30 plus surgeries. And so for a while in the beginning, it was like we had thought, oh, this surgery will fix her and we can go home. And then, nope, complications in hospital longer. Okay, well, the next surgery will fix it and we can go home. And there was always that phase of surgery recovery, surgery recovery. And it's like we were so close to going home and then couldn't, and so close to going home and then couldn't. And that happened so many times, but she was never given a fatal diagnosis. Like there was no terminal diagnosis. Um, so for SCID, for example, when we realized at 11 months that she needed that to survive, she was somehow surviving without an immune system. That shocked the doctors when we realized she had SCID at 11 months, and they were like, she's had 3 bowel surgeries at this point and survived them with no immune system. Like I had medical professionals saying it's a miracle. But she got that treatment, she got her bone marrow transplant, she survived that. And, there's recovery time after that. We were in hospital another year, for her bowel complications at the same time. So she had these 2 separate major life-threatening diagnoses that we needed her in hospital to survive. And then we'd get home and more complications would come up enough to bring us back to hospital. But there was never that um, sort of that stress on she will not survive until SVC came up and her need for a bowel transplant came up. And the combination there was, yes, her bowels are failing, and you have to not only wait for another child to pass away to be a viable donor, but it's like, will she survive? The only way she could survive was through IVs, giving her nutrition if her bowels decided to stop working intermittently during that waiting period. The problem with that is by the time she was 6, she'd been in hospital and through so many surgeries. She needed what they call Broviacs, so these like permanent IV placements. And she was so tiny that only certain ones would work. And anytime you place this permanent IV, it scars the vessel. And your SVC, so the vessels, there's only a certain amount of chambers that come above your heart that they can use the space for. And so by the time she was 6, all but one of them has scarred from all the previous use of her IVs, her vessels. And so she developed SVC syndrome. And basically it was a race against time when she was, listed at 6 years old for a bowel transplant, because in order to get the bowel transplant, you had to have at least this access in your vessels to even get it. And they had told us, um, if she loses access before this transplant is able to happen, she doesn't get the transplant. And that was really scary. That was really the only time in my life where I thought, my gosh, like, she's already in enough pain with her bowels to then, if she does lose access and not be able to get the bowels to help her survive, and then also lose vessels that are actually helping her to survive. It was just so painful to think about. That was a really, really dark time for me, trying to give her the best poker face I could to keep her motivation and her belief and her faith in this surgery happening for her alive. And it's crazy to think about that. When she did finally get her bowel transplant in August of 2023, the one vessel she had left, the line, we call it a line, like her permanent IV, it lasted 6 days after that transplant and it was done. So she was within a week of it not even being possible.
Wow.
Yeah.
So a week later, she just wouldn't have been able to have the transplant at all. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
That's
is
insane.
that's
Yeah.
an absolute miracle. That's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
I,
It
crazy
was.
to even think about.
And
I can't.
yeah, and her recovery was even more of a miracle. They like she just had her full bowels transplanted, which isn't very common. It's really hard to not only get a donor that's the same size, that bowels that fit her size, um, but be all the right matches for blood types and everything, viable and working. So that alone is a miracle. And then they haven't done this surgery very, very often, but they had said they'd warned us, this could take 15 to 20 hours. Hers only took 8. They were shocked. They were like, she recovered so fast. She came out of surgery within a half hour of us seeing her. She was already asking to eat and drink. Yeah. I remember she
Wow.
was so funny. I mean, she was used to the hospital life, right? Like she knew the ins and outs and the tricks. And so she'd wait for her nurse to leave the room and she'd be like, Mom, sneak me some ice chips. I'm like, I'm not allowed. She'd make up these little fibs about how, like, it's okay, Mom. Like, you can get me some ice chips. And I was like, legit not allowed. Like,
I love that.
uh,
How away from the medical journey that was her life, how and that's a nice little insight that story that you just said. How would you describe Bella?
she is like, you think you know what high confidence is and times it by 10 when it comes to her. She when she was out of hospital, you would have no idea the amount of time she had spent in hospital. Like, of course, there was times when we got her healthy enough, well enough, safe enough to go to school, to go to birthday parties and see friends, and go to the mall. She loved shopping. She loved being in the big city because we live, small town, and then on top of that, an acreage in Saskatchewan. So she was like, "Oh, I live in the middle of nowhere." But she had like, she's used to these big cities with the hospitals like Saskatoon, Calgary in Alberta, and then Toronto. And she loved it. She got a taste of it. She loved it. So her confidence was through the roof. Um, she definitely did not take being out of hospital for granted because she never knew when she had to go back in, right? Like things would come up, and when we did go back in, it would be for weeks or months at a time. So she definitely didn't take being out of there for granted and loved travel. She loved pranks. That was her big fun thing to do. Like she would want to prank like every day. Her and I would like plan pranks on dad. Um, so like April Fools was like one of her favorite days.
can you give
Yeah.
us the best prank that she
Yeah,
pulled
I
off?
want to hear one of the pranks. She's after my own
Okay, you
heart. There,
guys are gonna laugh.
I love April Fools.
I don't know if this is the best or if it's just really mean. Like so she she had an ostomy pouchy, right? And she like this, of course, like again, her confidence is through the roof. So she wasn't embarrassed that, she was like willing to tell all of her friends about like how her poop actually comes out a different way. Anyways, with her bowel disease, we talked about poop a lot and gas. And she we would sneak up on dad when he was sitting on the couch watching his sports gamers or whatever at night. And she'd be like, Mom, let's prank dad. And I would we'd sneak up behind him while he sit on the couch. And sometimes her pouchy, we called it her pouchy, would fill up with gas, right? And so we'd
No
unleash the
way.
toots.
No way.
we'd sneak up and I'd hide. And so like her little pouchies under her shirt. So I'd like put on like a little mask and she'd put on like a little mask and I'd be like, okay, hold your breath. And so we'd sneak, crawl over to dad. We'd sneak beside the couch and I'd open up her little bag and I'd let out this little poof of like stink. And then we'd fold it back up and run away. And he was like, you're suffering. That was like one of our favorites.
That's so
Like her
good.
sense of humor, her sense of humor was the best. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. It's like having her own accessible fart spray bottle where
Yeah. Oh
she's
yeah.
got
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you have another? I love that. Do you have another really favorable memory or story that you have of Bella? Maybe outside, maybe in the city, a time that she was away from, the medical side of things.
Yeah. I mean, so she had dwarfism and she was very proportionate. Like, so it wasn't your typical where you could really tell. And her like she was really just little, just smaller. And she didn't have the typical features of most little people with dwarfism that you see. And so a lot of people just thought she was younger. And I remember taking her to the mall and she was so smart. Like, and I'm not being biased, but like I had speech therapists and sometimes she'd have to have school in the hospital. And so they're telling me like, wow, she's talking early. Her expressive and receptive scores are super high, but also, you know, who's around 20 adults from the day they're born. So she's hearing people and talk. So her ability to talk and converse started really early. So when I could finally take her out in public, we'd walk the mall sometimes. And so she would have been like 3 or 4. And she would look like she was, to some people, maybe even 10 months old or 1. And and she would still have a stroller because she's tiny, or sometimes she'd walk or go on her little scooter. And I would talk to her like, well, she's my child, but I would have full conversations with her, and then she'd answer me back. And the look on people's faces, they were just like drawn to her with this amazement of this genius child. And they would be like, and they would just come in like swarms and be like, I'm just drawn to like, oh my gosh, she's talking so early. And then it was really funny when she got to be a bit older and be like, yeah, I can talk. Like I'm so many years old, whatever. And it was kind of funny that way, but people were just amazed with her. And I kind of got tired of like explaining or like telling them. And so eventually I was just like, yeah, she's smart.
Yeah.
She's pretty smart. I didn't tell
You-
them her actual age. I just let them think she was a genius. But she 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 I don't want to say liked the attention, but she was like it almost gave her more confidence to see how many people that really just thought she was amazing. Like complete strangers were just like in awe of her. And some of them didn't have to do with uh the way she was talking. They would just for some reason be drawn to her and see her happiness and her joy, and they'd want to tell me that. And that just made me like a really proud mom and happy for her. Yeah.
Aside from the pranks and the confidence that she had to draw people in, what things made Bella happy?
This is a paid partnership with BetterHelp. Hey Luke and Ryan, life gets heavy sometimes, especially when grief hits. For me, that weight often shows up as anxiety.
Yeah, it's not always one big thing. Sometimes it's just life piling up, work, relationships, trying to hold it all together. Suddenly, I'm anxious and don't know why.
Totally. I used to think anxiety meant panic attacks, but for me, it's more like overthinking every choice or feeling like I'm never doing enough.
And it can even hit on good days. Out of nowhere, I'm spiraling over things that haven't even happened yet.
It's easy to feel alone in it, but you're not.
That's why we're talking about our paid partner, BetterHelp.
BetterHelp connects you with credentialed therapists who can help manage anxiety and more.
Most people go to BetterHelp for anxiety, and 69% feel better after just 6 weeks.
Getting started is simple. Fill out a quick questionnaire and get matched with a therapist. If it's not a fit, you can switch at any time.
Their support team is super responsive, and with over 7,000 reviews and a 4.3 Trustpilot rating, it's a platform you can count on.
So let BetterHelp help manage your anxiety so it doesn't manage you.
Click the link below or go to betterhelp.com/rememberingthem for 10% off your first month.
She loved camping. She loves going camping, like roughing it, like out in the boonies, in the middle of like not in the middle of nowhere in Saskatchewan, but like force. She really, really liked that family time, and she loved traveling. And although like prior to her bowel transplant, we couldn't travel outside of Canada because then we would had to put her request for bowels on pause. Like they would take you off the list for a moment in time. So traveling for her meant like anything outside of the city or going to another bigger city. She loved traveling and going to different cities for fun. She loved eating out at restaurants. It would oh, I need to get fancy. I need to get dressed. Like just going out was a big deal to her. Even if it was just for like supper at, OJ's or she really loved or Earl's. Um, she loved hanging out with her friends. She was deprived of that for so long, having living in hospital. It was years before she could go for a play date, at a friend's house. So like even simple things like that just meant so much to her. And what else? She loved
What was her favorite
jokes.
food when she went out to eat?
Oh, okay. So she loves garlic toast. Garlic toast, pasta, what else? She loves penne pasta and fettuccine. Homemade garlic fettuccine, shrimp pasta is like her favorite thing to make and eat. Um,
All the
yeah,
carbs. Give her all the carbs.
all the carb. Yeah, yeah, yeah. She needed to carb load because she says like her little body would sometimes wouldn't let her, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
This might be
yeah.
an obvious question, an obvious answer to this question, I guess, based on the work that you do and the movement, and you spoke about her bravery before. What lessons, or speak into that bravery if you'd like as well, did you learn from Bella?
Yeah, so oh my goodness, she taught me what bravery is. Like if I feel like if I could talk to Webster's dictionary and be like, can we just put her picture beside the word bravery for a definition? Because I didn't understand how until I had my daughter Bella, how a tiny human could go through so much pain, so much hardship, be dealt so many rough cards in life, and still come out smiling and be so resilient. She was never scared to go into surgery. I mean, apart from the fact that she had been getting surgeries from 3 days old, she would she would come up with things like she was just never scared. She never showed fear. And I like I hope a part of that is my ability to help her and talk. I always talk things through with her. I was always like straight shooter for her. I didn't want her to be surprised by anything. I wanted her to be very knowledgeable with her own medical health care and to be able to advocate for herself. So she understood the medical world really, really well. And I think that helped keep the fear at bay. But I mean, we lived in hospital. I would see how, if you want to say like a typical child would react to some of the same procedures she was having and the fear and it with them and the legit, like, yeah, like normal amount of fear that they would have, she wouldn't have at all. And I think a lot of it was because of her understanding, but also because of the bravery she just had in her. She would look at things like, yeah, this is old hat for me, mom. I'm not worried about this at all. Going into surgery, she'd be like, yeah, I'll get the sleepy medicine, and it'll be cool, and I'll see you when I get out of surgery. Um, and when it came to like, you know, when it came to her age where she could express what was causing her pain and talk to me about that. And because it's always hard when they're a baby or a toddler and they can't always tell you what hurts or why or how. So when she got to the age where we could actually talk about it and I could help her figure things out, and she would retain that information and she would understand it and she would use what works for next time and be like, oh, well, this worked, mom, and this helps me feel better. And it was never a conversation about I'm scared, I don't want to. It was, well, I'm I can be brave about it. I I can do this and this will help me. You're here, mom. You can help me. And she just always seemed to not have an excuse, but she always had something to replace the fear. And to me, that was just like, wow, that is bravery because I could guess and I could assume, yeah, that fear is still there, but she would talk about it like it wasn't. Yeah.
What was that? Was that, I mean, was it a combination of you and your husband and, as you said, the medical professionals around her? Or was it just something internally that she had? I mean, the bravery, because normally, I think for children, just speaking generally, it's okay, you will get this if you do that. It's a situation where you need to coax them into, being brave and
Yeah.
trying something, whether that's a food or an experience or something like that. But for her, it just seemed, okay, this is what I need to do. Let's get it done. You're here. I've got everyone around me that I need. What was that? Or is there an
I
answer
I
to?
think, yeah, right. I mean, I think um it's a good combination of me as her mom able to be there. I mean, the circumstances, I from what I've seen living in a hospital, that's not always the case. There's so many kiddos, their parents have to work. They can't be there by their child's side. I fortunately was able to. I mean, I had to give up my teaching career, but with the severity of Bella, I couldn't leave her side. Sometimes 16, 18, 24 hours a day, especially when she was an infant. So my ability to be by her side through it all, I think was a big part because I know that's not the case for everybody. That's not the case for every parent. And then of course, thankfully, my husband having a job that it was very flexible and very supportive of him and understanding what we were going through. Um, so then again, also not maybe not super common to not only, you know, not be a single parent. I also had him to lean on and we could find strength in each other going through this for our daughter. And I had the most supportive family and friends community um, that moved ground to be with us or help us or do what they could for us when we were both in a hospital with Bella or when it was just me living away from home for months and years at a time. And yeah, I think that was a big part of it. I know when I would talk to her or do things for her from day one, knowing what she was going to deal with in her future with her rare disease, I knew from like day one, I wanted to build her confidence because I knew once she would eventually get out of this hospital, that this world is probably going to bombard her with questions. And I didn't want that to overwhelm her and I didn't want that to make her lose her confidence. So I think my mindset from day one with her in hospital was any way you can, whatever poker face you need to permanently wear, the way you speak to her, I would tell myself it needs to be with bravery, confidence, um, make her feel smart and understanding what she is going through. And a part of that too might be the fact that like I have an education background, I am a teacher too. So that was priority for me to make sure she understood it, not to like sugarcoat things. So I think that helped her with her bravery as well, just like feeling very confident and smart about what she was actually going through.
Yeah. You've
Yeah.
probably described it well there. You've probably answered my next question in what you've just summarized. But what I was going to ask is if you had any advice for people that are going through something loosely similar because Bella's situation was so rare. I don't know if we can speak to someone, or we can't because she was the only one with those three conditions. But whether it be some sort of medical underlying medical issue or something that they're going through, what advice would you give for people? In the mud, I guess, if I can describe it that way, but also then post Bella's passing, someone that may go through child loss. What advice would you give for, another mother or a family going through something similar?
The Remembering Them podcast is supported by My Legacy Message. How do you want to be remembered? My Legacy Message provides a service that delivers a personalized keepsake video to your loved ones, often as a surprise after you pass. My Legacy Message: be remembered.
I would say when you're in it, take the time to give yourself grace, however long that takes. If grace, rest, whatever you need to get your strength. But don't stay in the mud. Don't just lay down and take it. Like you can get out of there slowly but surely. And I remember what got me out of it was telling myself, like, yeah, I could sit here and I could scream and cry and complain about the cards my daughter got dealt, but that doesn't help me and it doesn't help her. Like, yes, get the aggression out, get the stress, get the frustration out, but to continue doing that is just going to keep you in the mud. And so I would tell myself, say to myself, yeah, you have every right to continue doing that. But if I if I could turn that pain into purpose, what I found helped me the most, what I found most healing was putting myself out there enough to not only advocate for my daughter, advocate for myself, but just simply even like talking about what we're going through and reaching out to other moms and dads and families in the same or similar situations. It was, it just made such a huge difference in terms of relief. Like just seeing what someone else was going through in a similar situation was enough for me to be like, okay, I'm not alone in this. And aside from that, I would always, in my experience, I mean, we lived in hospital for years, so I would always see someone who had it worse. I was in a hospital besides parents that never got to bring their kids home. So I would see that before I was actually in that place. And like I would say to myself, okay, like stop complaining. There is a lot of parents here that don't even get to bring their kiddos home. So that just always kept my mind on track. And my best advice would be try to see those other people's perspectives. Give yourself rest and grace first, and then build the strength to talk to other moms and dads that are in similar situations, because I think you'll find the most relief in those conversations.
Yeah, that's really good advice. What about the work that you're doing now to preserve Bella's legacy? Maybe it's a twofold question around the work you're doing, the advocacy around organ donation as well, but then also separate to that, you internally in the family. So you and your husband and your son, how do you preserve a legacy? So I guess on the bigger scale, and then you internally yourselves.
Yeah, well, um I have a lot of thanks to to all the companies and organizations and the places that have reached out to collaborate with me and um, invite me to speak or do public speaking. Apart from creating collaborations on my socials, um, I have a lot of thanks to everyone who has kind of been there from the beginning. I mean, I started my socials, like Instagram, Facebook, and then eventually TikTok. I started those with the first thing in mind, and the first reason in mind was um, we're living in isolation. We're living in hospital. I don't get to just go have coffee with my mom anymore or see my friends. And so I remember at one point, Bella and I, we were in isolation in an ISO unit for over 200 days around her bone marrow transplant. So nobody's going in and out of that room besides me, and that's even limited for myself. And so really my only way to communicate was with my socials online. And so I really turned those into like my advocating platforms for Bella and myself. And as our platforms grew over the years, I was just thankful that I can use these to help other medical moms and dads. And then not only that, educate everyone about my daughter's condition so she is not bombarded with questions when she finally gets out of here, gets out of jail. Basically is how we kind of joked about it, right? Um, so I I'm thankful to be able to use those platforms to continue carrying on her legacy that way, continuing to work with organizations that helped us through our medical life, like Ronald McDonald House and our local children's hospitals, and help them because of all the way they've helped us. And that's turned into public speaking, and I I really find that, especially when I get to speak at the high schools, to be able to carry on her brave legacy that way and help students and young kiddos learn from her bravery for themselves, to help themselves and advocate for organ donation and the medical community and pediatrics. And then what my husband and I have found most healing in this is starting our podcast. We started it last November. It's called Beyond Brave with Kyla CT. And we really started that as primarily we wanted it to be a way that we could carry on her story and her legacy. And it kind of formed into this beautiful sort of like grief therapy for both of us. Being able to talk about our grief and have people understand with us in like a journal type format, where my husband and I discovered that our banter is actually really funny, and we a lot of people that listen really enjoy it. But we're like, well, wait a minute, this is really healing for us too. Like, um, and not only a great way to carry on Bella's legacy, but help other people in similar shoes, help other grieving parents, and in turn help and heal ourselves too. Yeah.
That's awesome. And what about with your son? Is there a way that you keep them connected and I guess the family unit remembering Bella's legacy?
Yeah, I am really, really happy with the way our children's hospitals have supported him as Bella's sibling. They have given us so many resources. We've gone through so many children's books with him that he can read on his own now and understand on his own. And they've given him so many different ways to hold Bella in his heart and remember her. Um, and through those books and the different activities and things they give him to do for her, he has a few ways that he feels connected with her. So there was an organization in the ICU in Toronto that gifted him a stuffy, and Bella has the same one. And so we talked about and read stories about how they're connected through this invisible string. And so he feels that his love can still be connected to her in heaven. And we buried her with the matching stuffy that he has at home. And we we visit her gravesite together all the time. He brings her flowers. He was the one to tell me, he says, Mom, we don't just have to talk to her at her gravesite. We can say hi, every night before bed. I can tell Bella about my day. And so and he brings up memories all the time. If we're out somewhere, if we've traveled somewhere, he's talking about what Bella would have liked about it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Tyler, I have one final question for you for the main part of the podcast. We want to be respectful of your time, and as the sun sets over there in
Yeah.
Saskatchewan, I can see there on camera. But one final question for you for the podcast, main part of the podcast. It can be sometimes the hardest question that we ask guests, the last one, but take your time with this. If Bella was in front of you today, given it's only been a year since her passing, what would you say to her?
Oh gosh. It's a heavy one. Yeah, I don't know if I can get through this without crying. I would just hug her. I would say I love you and I hope I'm making you proud. And then I would ask her if there's anything else she wants me to be doing for her and that I'm like whatever it is, like name it, like anything. Give mommy a list, give me a to-do list. I will do anything for you, whatever you want, the way you want. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for answering that and being vulnerable. Thank you for
Yeah.
coming on the podcast and sharing Bella's story. We laughed, we cried, we learned some really valuable lessons, and that's
Yeah.
the whole premise of the podcast, and similar to yours, is hearing other people's stories and having that sense of gratitude and perspective with whatever you're going through in your own lives. So, and it sounds like your podcast is doing that with other families. So, continue on the work. I'm sure Bella would be absolutely proud. And thank you on behalf of Luke and myself and Ryan, who couldn't join us today. Thank you for coming on the podcast and sharing. We really appreciate it.
Oh, of course. I'm so thankful to be here. This is really means a lot for me too. So thank you guys.
Yeah.
So, Luke, that was Kyla from Saskatchewan in Canada.
Thank you, Kyla. Thank you, Saskatchewan. Thank you, Bella. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Bella. Thank you, the
Thank you.
fam.
That was I know our listeners are probably going to listen back and they'll be like, oh, Luke and Ryan were missing in that because I had nothing
Yeah.
to say of value. I just wanted to listen to it. So it's really
I
good.
know we often say that when you and or Ryan are silent, it's such an engaging chat because there's no need to add anything because the guest is so amazing, and she was absolutely amazing. Kyla, honoring Bella throughout that conversation. What a far out, what a confident and brave kid. Um, goes without saying with what she had to go through, but even just her, seems like the attitude that she had throughout was really phenomenal. So we appreciate that. We'll share all the links to Kyla's podcast and Instagram page. Obviously, we did mention that she's got a far bigger reach than we do, but we'll still share those things on our humble little podcast. It was awesome to hear about it. Kyla did stick around for the Patreon, so just a reminder to everyone to jump onto our Patreon, patreon.com/remembering them, to have access to that exclusive chat that we did have with Kyla. We spoke about another prank, which was really cool to hear about. We spoke about the similarities in the family between the son Waylon and Bella, and we also spoke about I guess delved a little bit more deeply into the bond, the mother-daughter bond that her and Bella had. So that was a really cool conversation. So the Patreon, just as a reminder, for our paid members would get access to that exclusive chat with Kyla. $6 a month US. I'm assuming similar for Canadian dollars if we do that conversion. About $9 a month Australian to support the podcast and also get exclusive access to those conversations, extra conversations. A reminder that we have the My Legacy Message service to leave video message to your loved ones, often a surprise after you pass. mylegacymessage.com.au, another supporter of the podcast. I'm sure, and Kyla obviously has a lot of videos, as she mentioned, that connection that she was able to keep her connected to the outside world when they were locked away and going through medical procedures where she couldn't see anyone or speak to anyone. So it's an opportunity to record some personalized messages and send them to your loved ones after you've passed, which I'm sure she has a lot of those banked up with Bella and a fantastic keepsake. Reminder that we have the BetterHelp partnership as well, betterhelp.com/remembering them podcast, giving you 10% off your first month's subscription if you need to speak to a credentialed therapist, whatever you may be going through. And speaking of that, if you are going through something, please share this episode that we had with Kyla in honouring Bella. If you think it would help someone out there that is going through something similar, Kyla obviously had some fantastic pieces of advice throughout that, but also even just hearing Bella's story, I think will help someone put things into perspective and have that gratitude with whatever they're going through. Kyla did mention she had that herself in the hospital, speaking to other parents and connecting and seeing their stories and putting their own situation into perspective as well. I think that covers everything. Please give the podcast a rating and review. That would help us as well. And we look forward to the next conversation. What an amazing chat, Luke, with a little girl that, should know, no child should ever go through any sort of medical procedure or diagnosis or illness. But the fact that Bella had to go through, 3 super rare ones as a combination, and sounds like she just had to keep fighting her whole little life.
If there's one takeaway, I'll remember Bella Brave. It's
Mm.
she definitely lived up to her name. So
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
amazing story. So
Yeah.
that was amazing. Great chat. Thank you. Thanks for having me on, mate. And
Thank you
look forward to
thank
the next
you.
one.
Yeah, absolutely looking forward to the next one. Ryan, we hope you enjoy this chat as well, and you're out there feeding the homeless and supporting them on this special day as well. Look forward to having you back for the next one. Thank you, Luke. Love you.
Thank
Bye.
you, mate. See you, mate.
The Remembering Them podcast is created for entertainment purposes. Mark, Ryan, and Luke are not licensed mental health professionals. If you would like to discuss your mental well-being, several resources are available in Australia. Information about these services are available in the podcast notes. Please take the time to contact your loved one today and tell them how much you appreciate and love them.